Welcome, nerds, to the music news for the week. This is a chunk taken out of the much larger full-length show over on the main channel, youtube.com/generallynerdy. Here in the music section, we like to talk about recent releases, upcoming releases, as well as tour dates being announced, festivals being announced, just regular music-associated news and the whatnot. This week in news, this stuff happened. Music section. In today's music section, aside from new music and things, we have Greta Van Fleet announcing tours. We have Avenged Sevenfold talking about why they didn't go on tour with Metallica in the early days, as well as new music from Mudvayne. We're going to talk about all of that. But first, we have new music to talk about, new releases and videos and such. No follow-ups, no corrections, none of that. Just straight into new music. And first up on new music, a brand new band called Better Lovers. And I say brand new, and I don't necessarily mean brand new, because these are all dudes that you have known for years and years. So what do you get when you mix the frantic energy of the Dillinger Escape Plan with the swagger of Every Time I Die? You get a band called Better Lovers. The name of the song is 30 Under 13. The members that make up this not entirely new band, we have Greg Puciato on vocals, Jordan Buckley, Clayton Holyoke, Stephen McKeeche, Will Putney, all making up the roles of this band. And like I said, this is mostly just Puciato from Dillinger and then a bunch of dudes who are associated with or were actually in Every Time I Die for, up until rather recently. We covered the drama there, so let's not touch on that. Let's just talk about this damn song, shall we? This is exactly what I just billed it as. This is the frenetic energy of Dillinger Escape Plan. It's just all over the place, but you still have that string section from Every Time I Die, so you still have a lot of that kind of southern swagger going on. And this is probably, of all of the music that we're talking about this week in the new music section, this is probably the one that I have the least audio notes for as far as production goes. This is just a hell of a good song. Absolutely a recommend. If you like something that's a little harder to listen to, then absolutely Better Lovers 30 Under 13 is a track for you. Let's move on. Our next piece comes from the almighty Foo Fighters. We have a new song from the Foo Fighters called Rescued. There is a new album that will be coming out June 2nd. Name of the new album is But Here We Are. The track is kind of what you would expect after the last year and a half that this band has had. It's pretty raw as far as like the emotions go and the deliveries go and everything. And still, it's not. I saw one review of the song or the record rather, talking about how it's hearkening back to the early days of the band. No, not exactly. A little bit as far as the audio production goes, there's definitely shadows of where they come from in the way this track is mixed. But as far as like the energy of the band, this is a very different energy, and it's to be expected. This is exactly kind of where the fan base probably anticipated the sound was going to evolve to. I could not find who the new drummer is, if there even is an official new drummer, or if Dave Grohl just took over drumming duties for the record. We will probably put that in a follow-up in the future dates, but this new song, Rescued, is legitimately awesome. Go listen to it. Now let's talk about Spiritbox's new single. The new single from Spiritbox is called The Void. This is kind of nothing new as far as Spiritbox goes, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's also relatively unremarkable when you look at the catalog that they have released so far, and then you compare it to this. I think the big kind of comment here, aside from the just general mellowing down, is the vocals very specifically have been more than just generally mellowed out. They're pretty mellow by comparison to, again, what we've heard from this band up to this point. Is this a pivot in their sound? Are they kind of going to steer it in a slightly different direction? Possibly. That's kind of the implication that I'm getting from this track. Not entirely a bad thing, but also not a very good thing either. So a mild recommend, I think. Then let's talk about a new track from Staind. The name of this song is Lowest in Me. It is good to hear Aaron Lewis using that scream that I love so much of his once again, but this band is not the band that I fell in love with on that Dysfunction album. There are kind of echoes of that. There is a moment, like I said, where it's a bridge towards the end of the song where you do get some of those harsh vocals from Aaron Lewis once again, and always Mike Mushok on the guitar is never one to disappoint. Even on their not so great records, Mike's stuff is always impressive. So like, that's not the issue here. The issue is just the general sound. I feel like they're never gonna be the guys they were on Dysfunction. That's just the way life works. So this is a recommend, but again, fairly mild, because Staind, while still great, just will never reach those peaks of greatness again. Next up, speaking of bands that have been around for a minute, we have Rancid releasing a new track. The name of the track is Tomorrow Never Comes. There is a new record coming out June 2nd with the same title called Tomorrow Never Comes. I read it somewhere that somebody has made the statement, somebody noteworthy in the music community, though I don't remember who to attribute the quote to, so I do apologize for that. But I read somewhere that Rancid cannot make a bad album. And I think when your general sound is just so universally loved, I think that is a very, very true statement. This follows right along with that statement. So yeah, it's not a bad song by any stretch of the imagination. It's also not exceptional by the standards that they've set for themselves. It's good. It's definitely one that you should be listening to. It's definitely one, when the record comes out, you're probably going to want to get this record. But like, this first single, kind of doesn't do a whole lot as far as moving their sound in any sort of direction necessarily. Just keeping it where it's going, which is fine. One kind of funny note, did Tim Armstrong stop trying to sing with a British accent? That's kind of been going for a couple records, I feel like, but now it's like, oh hey, that's what Tim Armstrong legitimately sounds like, and not that weird affectation that he was putting on before. And finally, in new music, we have Smashing Pumpkins with their new single, Empires. And okay, so I like the Smashing Pumpkins. I've honestly liked pretty much everything they put out pre whatever that record was after the Swans stuff that Corgan did. So everything up until Billy Corgan did the Swans project. And then everything since then has kind of been very much a mixed bag. This is almost where I want their new sound to be. This is almost what I was expecting Smashing Pumpkins to be like. All right, we are this band, we are this sound. The big issue here is the mix on Billy's vocals is just overwhelming. Like, he's not exactly the vocalist he once was. He's still great. He's still really just not as great as he was. And the mix on this just really puts him up here, and then everybody else is just kind of hanging out back here. So I would have done something differently myself, but I'm not getting paid millions of dollars to do it, so it kind of is what it is. Worth a listen, though, if you are an alt-rock fan, if you are a fan of the grunge and stuff from the 90s, then it's really cool to see how those bands have evolved and such, and this is a prime example of that. So, all of that being said, now it's time to talk about tours and festivals. Kind of a little bit of both. First up, we're talking about Greta Van Fleet has just announced a world tour. The Starcatcher World Tour, to be specific, begins July 24th in Nashville. That is just a couple of days after they make two pretty big festival showings. The first festival is the Shaky Knees Festival in Atlanta, Georgia. The second one is Beale Street Music Festival in Memphis, and then again, July 24th kicks off the official tour dates. That is Nashville, Tennessee is July 24th, and it runs through September 27th in Mexico City, and there is a whole lot of dates in between. Support from this is going to be kind of scattered. We have Kaleo, Surf Curse, Mount Joy, and Black Honey, and then on a couple of these dates as well, they're going to be playing with Metallica, which is pretty interesting. So yeah, Greta Van Fleet. Yeah, we've got a lot of talk about these guys over in the shout-outs video this week, so definitely stay tuned for that over on the Clips channel. That being said, our next piece of tour information comes from the band Volbeat. Volbeat has just announced they're going to be hitting the road with Halestorm. The name of the tour is Servant of the Road. Begins July 12th in Ontario, Toronto, Ontario, rather, and then through August 6th through Grantville, Pennsylvania. Not a whole lot of dates on here, but definitely a fair amount, so they're probably coming somewhere close to you. That is what we have for new tours announced this week. Let's talk about some regular-ass news. This week, we're going to kick this subsection off with a little bit of an aside as far as the news goes. We're going to interject some opinion here. So the piece that we're starting this off is Avenged Sevenfold. Very recently did an interview where M Shadows, Matt, if you will, was talking about touring, especially touring in the early days, and he talked in detail about how they turned down a tour to open for Metallica. His reasoning was someone gave him advice early in his career that said always try to be a headliner, because once you hit the status of headliner, then you will be seen in the eyes of marketing agents and people in the business, as well as in the fan base, that you are a headlining band. If you are always opening for other bands, then you will always be seen as an opener. To which I say that is fair advice to a degree. That degree would be Metallica. You're never going to headline a show that Metallica is also on. That's just not going to happen. They are legitimately the biggest heavy metal act in the world. Top selling, like in any considerable metric, in any way, shape, or form that you could say this band is the top in this area of music, Metallica is that band for the metal community. Like it or lump it, that is the way it is. So if you get an offer to open for this band, you should probably jump all over it. I don't care who you are. When I saw Metallica, they took with them the likes of Mudvayne, Deftones, Linkin Park, and Limp Bizkit. Yes, that is correct. I'm pretty sure that was all the same show. It might have been two different shows that I'm remembering. Either way, those four bands, very arguably throughout the course of their career, especially at the time that I saw them open for Metallica, they were bigger than Avenged Sevenfold. Avenged Sevenfold is a very large band. I'm not trying to make that comparison necessarily, but following that advice of never be an opener, always be the headliner is good. I'm making Marvelous Miss Maisel comparisons in my head because that show is great, and she also had a mantra like that for a hot second in season 4, and it came around and bit her in the ass. I don't necessarily think this one bit Avenged Sevenfold in the ass exactly, but I think they could have gotten bigger faster had they taken this tour with Metallica. I think at this point, Shadows has come to the realization that his band can open for Metallica and it'll be all right. I actually seem to remember, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to remember them actually going on tour with Metallica at some point in their recent past, but not in their long past, back in the days of, you know, the City of Evil time and such. So yeah, just a weird, like, why would you listen to that advice in terms of Metallica? In terms of your general career, absolutely go for it, because that's sound advice for by and large, but just silly. Anyway, that's what we've got. That's all we got for Avenged Sevenfold. Let's move over. Next, we have the announcement from Rammstein that we have a 40th anniversary collection. It is the Sehnsucht anniversary. Ooh, 40? Did I write that down right? I must. I might have that wrong. I might have put it down in the notes wrong, and I apologize. Either way, it is the anniversary. It might be the 30th anniversary of Sehnsucht, and I just fat fingered it. But yeah, Sehnsucht getting an anniversary, remastered in HD. No exceptional remixing done to this to any of the tracks on this record, save for Speil Mit Mir, which is I mean, this whole album is a classic, so definitely that song is, anyway. There is also included with this very elaborate packaging that they're going to be releasing for the physical version of the remastered anniversary edition of Sehnsucht. We have a 40-page booklet that is just going to be awesome. I couldn't find a like pre-ordered link or anything as of doing notes or as of filming, so if I can find it before this goes live, then I will do that for you. But otherwise, keep your eyes peeled for the Rammstein anniversary edition of Sehnsucht coming out soon. Next up, we have a Metallica piece. Speaking of Metallica, 72 Seasons is going to be the very first full album. I don't know if it was genre specific, but I think it's country specific. So very first album that is fully released in American Sign Language videos. So not a really in-depth piece here, just a really cool fact about Metallica doing all this expansion. Buying that vinyl record factory about a month ago now, and then now this with the 72 Seasons. These guys are just looking to become just better in general and more ingrained into the culture, and they're finding really interesting ways of doing it, and this is one of them. So yeah, that's also, I believe, a world record. This is the first time this has ever happened. Again, I don't believe it is a genre specific. I think it is the first time in American Sign Language history it's the first time that a record is being released in its entirety in American Sign Language. So the videos for each song, that's pretty damn cool. Next up, we're talking about Machine Head. This one could have gone in tours, I guess, technically, but Machine Head has canceled a tour. The Electric Happy Hour live tour that we talked about a few weeks ago at this point, it was supposed to take place this spring, has been canceled, it seems, because of work visa issues, because a fair amount of the Machine Head camp do not live in the States. And so what with new protocols, post-pandemic, and so on and so forth, it's taking, because they're still in the process, it's taking a lot longer to get things through as far as work visas are concerned than it used to, which kind of sucks, and made Machine Head cancel their tour. This is not a postponement. This is not a rescheduling. This is a cancel. Much like many artists who are in the know recently have canceled their tours instead of rescheduling or postponing, because when it comes to ticket sales, they understand that a lot of their audience are not exactly well off and cannot afford to just be out a couple $100 for some concert tickets. So if they were to postpone, you do not get your money back. If they were to reschedule, you do not get your money back. You hold on to your ticket and it is valid on the new scheduled date. With a cancellation, you can get your money back, and that is why they're doing it. Because they want their fans to know that they understand the situation, which is pretty dang awesome, if you ask me. And then our final piece of news here in the regular ass news subsection is probably my favorite for this entire episode, and that is Mudvayne is coming out with new music. They are currently recording. They're in the studio while on tour, which I find very interesting. They're currently in the studio, though, right now, specifically Chad Gray, vocalist for Mudvayne, and also Hell Yeah, if you didn't know, is recording vocals in a Texas studio maybe even his Texas studio. I didn't really catch that part, but yes, new music, first new music from Mudvayne in 14 years. This could not have come at a better time. Just super, super, super stoked. Actually, I take that back. It could have come 8 years ago, but beggars can't be choosers, and I'm not in the band Mudvayne, so I have no control over when they put out new music. Yes, please, and thank you. Let's move right along. That brings us to suggestions for music. This week's music suggestion is Stain's first label album, Dysfunction. They did have a self-released album before this that kind of is just a lot of the tracks from Dysfunction done on a smaller budget. And this is is the band that I fell in love with. It was also kind of the beginning of the nu metal area. This was the first band that Fred Durst signed as an A&R rep for Interscope Records, so there's that kind of little bit of history for you as well. Almost didn't sign them, totally different thing, but almost didn't sign them because of some of the imagery they used. But yeah, Stained Dysfunction, check out Just Go, Mud Shovel, just the whole record is pretty classic at this point, so that is your suggestion for the week. Once again, this is just the music section. There is a much longer show called The Week in Nerddom over on the main channel, youtube.com/generallynerdy. Go check out the entire show or just subscribe here and do all of the things. Appreciate your faces, nerds. Before we go though, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.